Yo, what's going on guys, Kid here, back with another true scary killer clown story. My morning coffee, dearly needed after a late night, was interrupted for the 5th time this week by an unfortunately recurrent sighting from my kitchen window. A clown. One with red overalls, a yellow striped, long-sleeved shirt and hair that looked like my belly button lint was set on fire. This clown wasn't menacing me, though not directly anyway. He was a neighbour, Jim the clown. Well, he actually goes by Booger, but I can't stand that gross humour stuff, so to me he is Jim the clown. Ugh, how can this chump afford to live in the same neighbourhood as me? I asked myself while watching him load his supplies into his 2017 Audi A7. He may be a buffoon, but damn, is that a nice car. It deserves a better owner than a poor man's Ronald McDonald. I turned away from the horror show that across the street and finished my coffee. Work was going to be a pain in the arse today. Sales reports were due to me first thing in the morning, which meant my day was going to be full of crunching data, preparing projections and figuring out a game plan to increase profits next quarter. And who knows what kind of mess would be there waiting for me because of Sarah. She's an overzealous co-worker that wants to give the company everything she has and expects everyone else to do the same. She doesn't understand wanting to live her life. She's genuinely devoted to the company. Gross. She's been creating problems for me for days now, and I don't expect today to be any different. I took a breath and recited the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the strength to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Corny though it may be, saying that prayer really helped me focus on difficult mornings, which this was sure to be one. I have to know what I can change and what I cannot, and knowing the difference between the two was crucial. As I walked to my shabby 2014 Lexus ES, I saw Jim the Clown finishing shoveling a large roll of barrack into his luxury car. It looked thick. Maybe some kind of special clown rug for his show? Fuck if I knew. Hey there, neighbour. Jim halted after slamming his car's back door shut. I gave a brief wave of acknowledgement. I try not to engage with Jim too much because, well, he dresses like a fast food mascot, and that's not an image I want to be associated with. Also, and more importantly today, he was a serial talker. Once he got you in a conversation, you could be stuck there for 30 minutes. And I could not be late today. Last thing I needed today was an office full of people wondering where Alex was. However, today was different. After the loud greeting, Jim hurriedly got into the driver's seat and rushed off his driveway. He practically burned rubber accelerating down the main street. Seems early for a birthday party, but oh well, he's running late to my benefit, I suppose. I managed to make it work on time, but was greeted by some unexpected visitors. 2 detectives. Alex Morgan, the older Massachusetts one asked. His smaller, twitcher partner flanked him. Yes, that's me. Is everything okay? Not quite. I'm Detective Moreno. This is Detective Lafon. You worked with Sarah Grafton, is that correct? Sarah? Yes, of course. We're partners on several projects. You were partners, Lafon stated. She was found dead this morning. I dropped my jaw and shocked, adored my face. What happened? I asked. We're not at liberty to say, but we had some questions for you, Moreno said, taking over the conversation from his partner. I answered my questions to the best of their ability, and they were all pretty basic. Did I know of anybody who would hurt Sarah? Am I aware as to whether or not Sarah had been seeing somebody? Do I know much about Sarah's relationship with her family? My answer was no to everything. We kept our relationship as professional as possible. The detectives gave me a card in case anything comes to mind and thanked me for my time. I had trouble focusing on my work for the rest of the day. All I could think about was Sarah's murder and the investigation. I needed to know more. Luckily, one of the office GAD files figured out what happened to Sarah by listening to the detectives chat. Turns out that Sarah carpooled with somebody, so when Sarah failed to answer the door that morning, her driving buddy called the police for a welfare check. They came to her house, kicked in the door and gasped. Swaths of blood were splashed throughout the kitchen and living room, with pools built up in several spots. Pieces of flesh were found in the kitchen. Not small pieces either, but chunks that looked to be bitten off. While gruesome, that wasn't even the eeriest part. There was a rope of handkerchiefs found behind the couch. You know, one of those cliche things magicians and clowns pull out of their sleeves. Also, splotches of white makeup were found on her coffee table and couch, likely the result of a struggle. You know what that means, right? My gut fully reported. This was the work of a killer clown. I tried to shake it off. Hell, I tried to laugh it off, but a feeling of dread persisted. Did the cops really think a clown did this? The evidence was there, certainly, but did they actually believe that story? My mind went back to this morning, seeing Jim shove that carpet into his suspicious back seat, and how Jim decided not to talk to me to death this morning, and instead pulled out down the street. Now that was just a coincidence. Had to be. The harried morning led me to needing to stay late to finish some extra work I took on. My nieces almost caused me to leave on time, but dollars wait for no man. I slipped my work's flash drive into my pocket and headed to the lobby. I ended up leaving the office past sunset, so the parking lot was not only empty but dark as well. The lights in the lot seemed to be on summertime still, so there wasn't even that to illuminate my trek. I had my keys in my hand before I even exited the building. I power walked to my car, but it was parked pretty much on the other side of the lot. Thought of this morning raced through my head and I tripped over some uneven asphalt. I saved myself from falling, but I dropped my keys in the process. As I bent to pick them up, I swear I heard a horn. Not a car horn, but one of those comical bike horns. I froze in the darkness and looked at my surroundings. I couldn't see much though, the murky black that enveloped the lot. But I don't think anybody was nearby. No Jim, no killer clown, nobody. This was ridiculous. There's no clown coming for me. The darkness was just getting into my head. I paused and recited the serenity prayer under my breath. This fear is an example of something you can control, I told myself. Nobody is after you. I made it to my car without any other mind tricks and drove home. A lump formed in my stomach the closer I got. Sure enough, my omen came true. Cops were crawling over the neighbourhood, specifically all over Jim's place. When I parked and exited my car, I was able to see Jim being forced out of his house in handcuffs. He was still in a clown paint, but was running from sweat and tears. He was screaming that he was innocent, he wouldn't even hurt a fly. The officers didn't seem to care about his protest much as they roughly forced him in the back of their cruiser. Glad to see they caught their man. I thought to myself as I let out a brief sigh of relief. Bye bye, booger. Inside my house, I made a call. I used a burner phone, of course. Can't get sloppy now. Is it done? The voice asked as soon as it picked up. Yeah, Sarah won't be able to damage our deal anymore, I replied while peeking at the red and blue light across the street from behind my blinds. Good, the voice purred. She struck her nose in the wrong place, you know it had to be done. I know, I responded. Sarah had caught onto how I was making my extra money by selling company secrets to a motivated competitor. Sarah, a naturally great employee, worked late a few nights ago and saw me transferring some confidential files onto my flash drive. She confronted me about it and I told her I would come clean by the end of the week. She trusted me. She shouldn't have. Instead, I snuck into Jim's house, stole some of his makeup and that infinity rag, and paid Sarah a late night visit. She opened the door for me without hesitation, as I texted her I needed help with my admission. She wanted to see the best in me. As soon as she let me in, I bashed her head against the granite countertop and knocked her unconscious. Now she couldn't see anything. From there it was easy. I dragged her body into the living room and strangled her with the chain of handcuffs. Afterward, I tossed the toy aside and began with the setup. The secret best part of this plan? It was fun. In fact, I loved it. How it felt when my teeth cut through her flesh. Her blood left a coppery flavour in my mouth hours after I brushed my teeth. And stabbing her and leaving trails of blood everywhere. It was like her blood was my paint and her house was my canvas. It was an artistic ecstasy. So you got the next package? My under-the-table employee asked, snapping me back to the present. Sure do, I answered while eyeing the police still rummaging around Jim's place. I can get it to you tomorrow night. I don't want to attract unwanted attention by going on late night drives. Fair, the voice replied. But if anybody else catches on, you know what to do. Certainly do, I chimmed. If only I could be so lucky. Thank you guys for watching. That's been me, Games Squiddy, over and out.